Hello everyone, this is Pamper Chew. Today I started to go through in detail of looking into how these little CRT monitors function so that I can gather up a set of 3 to build a color TV, a mini color TV, using a special piece of glass that combines the 3 colors into one. Get this out of here. So this is the piece of optical glass that has filters on it, and it's for combining red, green, and blue to create a color image on one side, or in the opposite direction, splitting a color image into red, green, blue separate outputs. I was going to build something like this, and I had thought of this over 10 years ago on how to do it, and somebody else had built one very similar to how I would have done it. They just beat me to it. And it's basically taking 3 monochrome tubes and then putting it into a special piece of optical glass that takes the 3 separate colors and outputs them as one. That's what I have here. This is out of an old HD projector from 2005, I think. Something I got for $5 or $10, and didn't really use it much, so I took it apart for this piece of glass. And it's a pretty large one too. But I won't be needing one that large. If I can find a smaller one, I will use that, because these tubes are much smaller. This is my first size I thought I could use to do this, but it's round, and it's not as small as I'd want it to be, because I'd like to build it smaller than this so I can have the record for the world's smallest color TV. And right now it's using the slightly larger tube. I think he's using one like this. And what I have here that match, I have some of these over here, mechanically focused little TVs, but they're actual 4x3 displays. So get the cover off there and show that. So they're actual square. Get to focus. They're square CRTs that have a mechanical focus and some kind of connector at the front for the cathode, I think it is. Most of them don't have that, or most of these little ones don't have that at all. There's no connection in the front. Alright, so here's the display that I am deciding to use. I decided to use this display because I have 3 of them that match and 4 of them that are the same style, electronically the same as each other, so that if I had to replace one, I could. And I also chose this because it's a square tube. It's a mechanically focused square face tube that will have a better picture quality and probably better control. Here's the electronics for one of these, and as you can see, it has a high voltage from the flyback going to the face of the tube, like you'd expect. And it's connected up to that little pin there at the front where it's soldered together. So this kind of system is common in most monitors, but for most mini CRTs I've found a little bit different how it's wired. But there's no output from a flyback going into a piece of metal at the front. It's actually connected to the back. I don't know if that makes a big difference in how it's focused, but from what I've looked at here, you can see there's only 2 rings there for adjustments, and on one of these you have 4 or 5 rings, and an ion trap over here. So there's something something a little bit different inside and how it's arranged, but it's going to give better image control and probably sharpness. So yeah, let me put this all away. Okay, so here's the 4 tubes that I'm using in the system. 4 tubes that I can use in the system, and they're matching. This is what it looks like if the little plastic bezel is taken off, but underneath is the exact same style of tube, and electrically wired the same also. So these came out of viewfinders or other equipment that had a need for a viewfinder. So here's the electronics that goes along with the CRT. These style are a little bit more complex electrically. They'll have more adjustments on them, and seem to be a little bit larger and better quality for the size of the assembly itself. The tube by itself is actually quite small. So here's one of the tubes with the cover taken off. You can see it says Citizen here on the side. The KMO1, KKD7, something, something, something. This camera's not very good at up close. There it goes. And that's just a piece of glass that's been welded or soldered to the rest of the tube there, and they sandwich in a little connection there for the high voltage. And on the back there's just 4 pins. That there should be the ion trap, I think. That little band there. And this thing here is probably just rubber heat shrink tubing, because I don't think it does anything else except center the yoke onto the tube. And here's what the yoke looks like on one of these. Your X and your Y wires there for your for the up and down and left and right. And then, so one of these ring pairs is for moving the magnet in this direction relative to the tube, and the other set is for the other direction, so going around around this way instead of this way, so that you can align the focus and alignment of the beam. And that's about it. I don't really know how to set these up yet, but these are already set up at the factory, so it should be close enough to good. And then later on I can use these to adjust the convergence and everything, adjust the 3 tubes together so that they align, and get them to stop rolling away, so they can be aligned for the image. And that's the biggest problem I'm dealing with right now, is how to align them. I mean, if I have a picture on each one and they're in some kind of mount, how do you align them? Okay, so this is the basic layout of how it's going to work. You have your 3 black and white displays, and each one will be playing back red, green, or blue for each tube, red, green, or blue. Then that's going to sit like that. These will be aligned relative to my green tube, which would be here, I think. And then these 2 here would be aligned relative to the one that I had set up as being the center correct tube. So right now is trying to figure out how to mount these in something that I can have some precise control of, up, down, left, right. backwards, forwards, tilt, yaw, roll, all that, so that I could at least adjust it correctly, mechanically first, get as close as possible, and then maybe electrically do the fine adjustments. And for the electric side of this, for wiring it all up, I do have that already done. It's pretty much already done. I just have to connect all the wires together into a some kind of box. But each board gets power. Each board has video inputs, just a regular composite video input, and the rest of it is not important. I can adjust brightness and contrast, I think,